You know, when we finish the filming, it never really finishes because the day you stop shooting, then you start all the special effects things. So you're not done up until the preview of the film. It's very difficult to know what you've got.
I just have one giant question. Where am I? Of all the alleys in the world I could have fallen into that night, why did it have to be yours?
Voice casting is very, very hard. And what we did is we auditioned hundreds of actors to find the voice of Howard.
Doll, I don't drink out of bowls. You got a beer?
And one of the actors we auditioned was John Cusack. And then we auditioned Martin Short, and we auditioned just a whole group of people. And then finally, Chip Zien is a very well-known Broadway actor and has done also a lot of television sitcom.
Go ahead, say something, dummy.
You might not want to hear what I'll say, bozo.
And he came in after the picture was completed, but Chip's voice, which we always saw as a sort of gravelly voice, what we felt worked very well.
Is this gonna be easy? Or is this gonna be trouble?
And then, of course, the nightmare came of how do you get the voice into the duck's lips, because they're done at a different time, and that was really complicated lip syncing. I mean, Willard and Chip were together forever in a dark room, doing voices.
George had put together the best sound team ever. We had Ben Bird, who was fantastic and had worked on all the Star Wars movies.
He must hate the chili.
He had to create the voice of the Dark Overlord.
If you can't take the heat, get out of that kitchen.
And the voice had to change as the Jeffrey Jones character changed.
1 million kilowatts.
It's always Jeffrey's voice.
Power.
It was just how far that Ben would take it and tweak it and make it more and more monstrous all the time.
Little pond hopper.
And Richard Hymes worked on the film, and then Gary Summers did the mixing, and so the sound was something I was really very proud of. And the sound effects teams up there in San Francisco were great, and it's something we paid a lot of attention to.
Something started to change inside of you.
The songs were done by Tom Dolby, and then we decided to bring in John Barry from the James Bond movies to develop the score for Howard and the really wonderful love theme that was between Howard and Lea, and we thought he really did a fabulous job.
Rough.
As the movie was being finished, everybody was worried. I mean, to have this creature that wasn't a cartoon creature in it, what would everybody think?
What is that? That's a duck! That's a duck, man!
You either had to accept the artifice or it wasn't going to work for you.
Howard the Duck was so hard to make, and it was an edgy idea. So I don't know whether I thought it was going to be a big hit. I knew that there was a lot of pressure on it.
When we showed it to the studio, I don't think there was a reaction. They just sort of left.
Wait, you can't leave.
Oh yeah? Why not?
And I said to George, I have a feeling this isn't really good. And then we had some screenings, and the screenings did not go so badly.
It was mixed. I mean, there were people in the audience who loved it and laughed and took it very lightly, and other people were just kind of, they didn't accept it.
Only two things touch my feathers: oil of nightfall and him.
I don't know if it was before its time or it was misunderstood, but I mean, listen, this is a movie about a duck from outer space. It's not supposed to be, an existential experience here. We're supposed to have fun with this concept, but for some reason, reviewers weren't able to get over that problem. I mean, we knew pretty well early on we were a fried egg.
A lot of the reviews weren't good. because it's hard when you're somebody like George and you're releasing a film, a George Lucas production. People expect a lot, and on the other hand, critics are also, looking for ways to tear down the king.
I remember I went out and bought a big screen television just to see the critics, and I invited all these friends over. And it was like, and our next movie is Howard the Duck. What a piece of and my face fell off. It was harsh. It was harsh.
Oh, great duck in heaven. Is this the end of Howard? There's going to be more violence. I hate violence.
I remember being really devastated when it came out in terms of how much just sheer insane tidal wave of bad reviews, how much that hurt, that it was such a big bomb. And I had seen the flip side of what a hit felt like with Back to the Future. And it was an interesting thing to experience as a really young person and being new in the business, to experience those two. It's given me, I think, a really unique perspective on this business.
Look, they're laughing at you.
I didn't read the reviews. It's not a good idea. I know that in general it was considered to be a gigantic waste of money. And I remember reading in the paper that this was what's wrong with Hollywood.
And I think particularly with Howard the Duck because of the title. It was easy to say, this is going to lay a bigger egg than Howard the Duck. So, the title lends itself to a lot of things like that.
Short blaster.
Then Howard became what I call sitcom fodder. Some show I saw, they were having a party. The party flopped. This is like, this party's worse than Howard the Duck. Constantly opening up that wound again.
Feels like something inside me, gnawing at my guts. What's wrong with me?
Well, what did you have for lunch?
There's no point in worrying about what you've done. What you've done is done, It was what it was, and I'm perfectly happy with my part in it. On to the next.
I can't sit here on my tail feathers feeling sorry for myself.
We just left for Hawaii and just refused to read any more material. It's just, people go through that, and there's just nothing you can do.
Hostility is like a psychic boomerang.
It's depressing for everybody because everybody's worked very hard. Even on the worst movie you've ever seen, people have really killed themselves. But then you just have to, say, well, we've got to continue and hopefully have a career in the future.
My whole career is falling apart.
Your career? What about my life?
I was literally terrified to work. I had to start working. And I remember crying on the first day. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to act. I don't know how to do this. It was too... How do you prepare for something like that?
You think that by looking controversial, you're never gonna find a job.
Well, the first assistant director on Howard the Duck was Dan Colesrud, and he introduced me to Mel Brooks. And, Mel was looking at him and looking at me, and he goes, how did you two meet? And he said he was Howard the Duck. Mel Brooks stood up and said, anybody who's in Howard the Duck can be in my movie. And I was in space. He shook my hands, and then I was in Spaceballs.
We actually found that people were more forgiving than we expected. And actually, we got quite a few offers to do other things, and then we tried to work in more dramatic areas to do something totally different.
This world didn't treat you very good. But you saved it, didn't you?
George for years said, just wait. 25 years from now, it will be rediscovered, and it will look really good for its time period. And that's sort of what happened.
This is crazy.
Phil, no duck is an island. And if fate sent me here to save Earth, then Howard the Duck is ready to fight.
The first thing, people would say sort of under their breath, I liked it, and they were afraid to say it. But then, people would start saying it was unfairly treated, and there'd be websites, fans of Howard the Duck, and why isn't it on DVD?
I've got rights, I'm suing.
Yeah.
And so those things, eventually you come out from under the cloud, and people say, well, I liked it. I thought it was fun.
You are about to make history a second time, my little friend.
Thanks.
And then suddenly it becomes a cult movie because people really understand the absurdity of it.
Yeah, well, I didn't buy it at first either.
And it's funny how it died for a lot of years, and then the new kids came, and now I have a whole new generation. I get fan mail from all over the world, and it's Chucky, and it's Howard the Duck. I've done lots and lots and lots of films, and again, you kind of want to say, well, don't you remember me from that film? No. That film? No. I want a picture of Howard the Duck. I'm like, okay.
Death from the skies to all duck hunters! Tora, tora, tora! Vengeance is mine, yeah!
That's how I defend Howard the Duck, is that people still love it. You know, it's for iconoclasts. It's for people who feel like they're on the fringe, or you know, or somehow relate to it, or somehow just hate when they're told, you should hate this movie, it's bad. And they go, I'm gonna love that.
Duck and proud of it.
Which is one of its charms, I think, because it is so odd and unpredictable and not logical, really. You know, it sort of defies logic.
Any questions? Yeah. Where are my pants?
I think the last time I saw Howard the Duck must have been when we finished the film. And I think the scenes I like the most are actually some of the smaller scenes. I liked the love scene. I thought it was very sweet, and the tone is sort of different than the rest of the movie.
Let's go for it, Mr. Macho.
I liked the scene in the diner.
I no longer need human food.
When Jeff is getting crazier and crazier, because there's a lot of looks between Howard and Beverly. And I like the humor in the movie.
I hope, in spite of whatever limitations it may have in the special effects, I hope it's really a charming and enjoyable and humorous movie. And that you see an imaginative process at work that maybe wasn't fully realized, but is there. Freeze! And I think the actors are great and brought a tremendous amount to it.
Book 'em, ducko.
And there is a lot in that movie. It's really funny, and it really is about the ultimate underdog, or underduck.
These are the original hands I wore in the movie. We wore many pairs, of course, but this is the first pair that I wore, and we were able to keep them. And if you notice, he had 3 fingers, and we had to. They started off with taping my 2 fingers together so I could train myself. Well, after the movie was finished, and for months afterwards, I would walk like that. That was that. They're kind of falling apart in their age, but not bad for 23 years.
Get that planet on the phone.